what they teach at Battleground Academy.
Okay, welcome back to the podcast where I'm not an expert, I'm an eyewitness, and there is a difference. I am going to do something a little bit different today. If you saw the TikTok teasers, you saw me talking about Ricky Gervais and how I was watching his special on Netflix, and this little thing happened. So I am going to jump right in. So, like I said on the teasers, Ricky Gervais is someone who I think is incredibly hilarious. He cracks me up so much. At the same time, he is incredibly crude. And just right up front, I will tell you that, after a few minutes of this, I kind of said, come on, Jill, what are you doing here? The crudeness is not something that I want. I'm trying to get rid of the mind mess. And a lot of his visuals are like, oh, no, I don't. Thanks, but no thanks for that visual. But while I was kind of checking it out to see, where he was going with things, the name of the special I noticed was Supernature. And he was kind of on a roll of making some pretty great points about all the insanity that we're going through in America. And so I was a little bit hooked there for a minute. And all of a sudden, he said something. He kind of moved over to his point and his title, which is Supernature. And he said, and this is not the comment that stopped me in my tracks or said, this is your cue, but he said, I don't really believe in the supernatural. I believe that anything that is quote unquote supernatural is actually natural and can be explained. And so then it was the next statement that he made. He made this joke about having, he's got Christian and Muslim and Jewish friends who pray. And he says, that's lovely. That's fine with me. But then he makes this joke and he makes this comment. Let's do the praying and the chemotherapy, shall we? Because that's the same result as just the chemotherapy. And of course, he said it, I say chemotherapy because I'm from Texas, and he says chemotherapy. But I'm not going to even try to be funny, because apparently Ricky Gervais does not think women are funny at all. If you saw the special, you know. And if you saw the special, shame on you. No, I'm totally kidding. That's your deal. Anyway, okay. So when he said that, I just went, I have to do a Seeing Ricky Gervais and tell my story. And so when I say Seeing Ricky Gervais in this one, like, I can so identify with his feelings there, because somewhere out in the storage shed, there is a bank box that has a folder in it. And in that folder is about a 10-page document. And on the front of it, it says, Jill Riley, stage 4 ovarian cancer. And before that document was created, I believed just like Ricky Gervais. And back then, before February of 1999, I would have been hysterically laughing right along with him, because I thought all of that was complete nonsense. I wouldn't say that I didn't believe in the supernatural. There was too much evidence of that. But I would have absolutely said that about praying. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what led up, about my time leading up to right before the creation of that document. So I had gone through about a year and a half search for the truth, okay? A year and a half study for the truth where religion is concerned. And I was studying all sorts of religions, and part of the reason that I was doing that was because somebody sort of challenged my pride and my ego by saying the only reason that you default to Christianity is because you were raised in the Bible Belt, and specifically by a child evangelist, and that's your backyard, and you're not very cultured, and you don't even know, you don't know anything but your backyard. Well, again, that hit my pride and ego. And the truth is, in that moment, I didn't have much of an argument for him, because I hadn't studied it out myself, like as an adult, and I kept telling myself over the years, I was 33 at this point, and I kept telling myself over the years that I needed to get my life under control. And when I got my life under control, then I would finally get back to that question about God and Jesus and all that stuff. And I went to church, like, I don't even know why I went to church, but I went to church, and I was just kind of there. I was in the balcony and hung over. I mean, seriously, and just in a complete fog. And so I was in the big middle of the music business on Music Row in Nashville as a songwriter. I had a publishing deal and record deals and blah, blah, blah. And I should say record deals in negotiation always. And so I was drinking, and I'm just going to tell you, I was drinking way, way, way too much Patron tequila. Became my sort of drug of choice, I guess. I smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and I was sleeping around, which was not a thing that I was ever about. And somehow through that lifestyle, it was just starting to happen. So I don't want to paint too much of a picture of, but like I had slept around some, and that was just not who I was. And so it wasn't really a moral thing. It just wasn't who I was. So that's where I was. Okay. So I'm in this, I decide, okay, I sound like an idiot. I can't even argue what I believe at all. And so I dive in, all these friends give me all these different books. And for about a year and a half, I really do a deep dive into all these books and philosophies and religions. And I finally got sick of the study. Like, I didn't want to occupy my mind with it or my time with it anymore. And one night I had all the books out on my kitchen table. And I literally just looked up in the air and said, look, I'm like so sick of this. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Muhammad or Buddha or 10,000, a panel of 10,000 Martians. I'm like literally trying to quote what I said. But, whoever you are, if you don't make yourself known to me, it's not a fair game. So I'm not playing the game. So, knock yourself out. And literally, I about quoted what I said that night. And I just went. I went to bed. That was that. And so as I continue to, you can't help it, but you're going to kind of mull over the things that are in your mind, which is why I can't watch Ricky Gervais, because I don't want to mull over those visuals, right? Anyway, so you're going to continue to ruminate or whatever on those, meditate on those things that you've poured into your mind. And I'm a logical left brain thinker as much as I am a right brain creative. And in my mind, I said 2 + 2 is 4. And I don't care. I don't care what language you use or whatever. If you put 2 pens next to 2 pens, you're going to have a word for that. And it means 4 in every language. It's 4 in English, cuatro, I think, in Spanish, whatever, right? But it's the concept of 4. And to me, truth was exclusive. And 2 + 2 is 4, which excludes 3 and 4.8 and 5 and 4.1. It's like it's 4. So that's the way I was thinking. And so I was thinking, okay, of all of these things that I've had my head in, somewhere in here there's an exclusive truth that is the umbrella under which the rest of these somehow lie. And they're all kind of closely tied. And I could go off on a big rabbit trail here, but I'm for time's sake, I'm not going to do that. But when I really studied what the Bible or what Christians claimed was the story of Lucifer, all of a sudden, that was the missing piece for me that said, aha, and kind of like a detective or an investigator, you found a motive. And you found a motive for why all these other things would be under this umbrella. And so when you see it that way, what I saw is that all of these have like, a % of truth in them, but then they have a % of deception in them. And the motive would be this character named Lucifer. And so all of a sudden this made logical sense to me. And I went, okay, you know what? Logically, I think I have concluded that Jesus is the one truth, right? Not experientially, but like that's starting to make sense with me. I'm not going to tell anybody I'm a Christian because the truth is I don't really like Christians, and I'm just not going down that road. And so, so, um, I suddenly started, I could not get away from the word baptism. Everywhere I went, somebody said baptism, or somebody said, oh, she just got baptized. Or I would see literally a sign that would say baptisms, whatever. And my mother called me on the phone, and my mother was not ever a person to really get into your business. She wasn't that mother. She didn't call her daughters and tell them what to do. She called in a very humble and meek way and said, listen, I don't mean to like butt in or tell you what to do, but I just cannot get over this. I think I'm supposed to encourage you to get baptized. And the minute, it's funny, the voice of the mother, which I talk about a lot, it's funny what that does. And I just knew. I knew, okay, that is not a coincidence. This is why I believe in the supernatural. There's no way my mother knows what's going on. I haven't talked to anybody about this. I need to go ahead and get baptized. Again, I'm going to get baptized. I'm going to make my family really proud. I'll go to Dallas. I'll do it in Dallas in front of them, and they'll all just be like, oh my God, she finally got baptized. And, but I'm still not going to be, I kept saying, I'm not going to be one of those little silverfish bumper sticker toting Christians. Like that's not the club I'm going to be in. And at the time I was still using the word spiritual instead of Christian. I'm spiritual. I'm not a Christian, but this was kind of unfolding. Okay. So about 3 weeks later, or some weeks later, I guess it was more than 3 weeks. It was more like 6 weeks later anyway, because I think the baptism was over the Christmas holiday. And in February, my mother came to Nashville, and I was going to go in for a routine doctor's check for some female stuff, that was kind of ongoing in my life. And I go in, and I'm going to do this routine surgery that has to happen. It's not a big deal at all. And all of a sudden, my whole world changes because I wake up from this surgery, and I have a doctor, like I'm barely coming out of anesthesia, and this doctor is saying tumor and cancer and chemotherapy, and like I'm just like my whole world is shifting. It's crazy. And here's a crazy thing that happened. I looked at my mom. If you knew my mom's story, God bless her. I looked at my mom. She has tears running down her face, and I say these words. I say, we have to have faith. And I laid back down and went back to sleep just like that. Now, I don't talk like that. I don't say we have to have faith. As a matter of fact, I don't want to have faith. Because to have faith, I'm serious, is to be one of those people. And that's the main thing that I want you to understand about my story is I did not want to be one of those people. And let me tell you why I didn't want to be one of those people. First of all, I thought those people were weird. Seriously, I thought they were attention-starved people that lacked a really good dramatic bar scene. And I make a joke, but I'm serious. I'm like, man, these people need to get a life. All this Holy Ghost weird stuff is just, wow. And so, and I've been exposed to it just a little bit. Well, actually, I went to a Pentecostal church. I didn't even know what a Pentecostal was. I'm not even kidding. I just sat in the balcony with the Judds, actually, at Christ Church in Nashville. And again, I don't even know why I would show up there. Just completely a disheveled mess. But anyway. So here are the reasons I did not want to be one of them. I did not want, they were weird to me. And my arrogance said I was a bigger thinker than that, than the eternal almighty God's realm. But here's the big reason. I knew that the business I was in, the people that I surrounded my life with, which was everyone on Music Row, from every celebrity known at the time. I mean, not every celebrity, but seriously, that's just where I was. And I knew that would be the end of that there would be absolutely no acceptance of me in those circles ever again if I became one of those people. And again, those kind of people were such a turnoff to me. So here is what happened. And I'll just tell you this. I have... You'll hear in the story, I never thought I would ever tell this story. And finally, I told it in Northern Ireland, which I felt very safe to tell because those aren't my people and, So I've written this down and I've told it in private settings, but I have never actually recorded this. So I'm a little bit nervous right now, but here we go. So here's what happened. I came home from the surgery, and my family had come in. My sisters and my grandmother had come in. And it was quite a hubbub. It was quite a thing for everybody to process. It was diagnosed as stage 4 ovarian cancer. But there was a confusing thing about this. So, my family prayed that night, and I'm going to protect some privacy here, but my family prayed that night. And when they left the room after the prayer, I had an encounter with what I perceived and believe to be a demonic being who was in my room, who was near my closet. I mean, this is a literal monsters in the closet story, so have fun with me there. And my closet door was open, and this thing was darkness and was so manifest, not completely tangible in like a smoke or like translucent, but very dark and absolute terror and evil coming from this being. And I, in a very quick, like split-second panic, I think to myself, okay, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to take a hydrocodone and knock myself out because I'm not dealing with that. I mean, that's really kind of what I thought. I don't know that I thought anything. I just went for the hydrocodone. I took the hydrocodone and turned the lamp off beside me, and as I turned, I was frozen, stiff, and I was frozen right here because, and I'm sitting up in the bed, right, because sitting back behind me and beside me was what I perceived and believe to be Jesus. And the same sort of thing, I could see here's what I could see. I could see out of my peripheral because I'm frozen. I cannot move, can't move my eyes. I can see that his knees are up and his hands are propped over his knees and they're just gently laying over his knees. I can kind of see his feet. I don't know if he's either barefoot or sandal foot, but I can't move my eyes to even look. And he has a white linen cloth, as we would picture him. And I say this, like a projector, a film projector or whatever, it has that cone-shaped light coming out. Okay, if you poked your finger into that cone shape, you could do that, right? You stick your hand in there, but the cone shape would hold its shape. Well, I knew this to be true of this being beside me, who was Jesus, although I couldn't move and wasn't going to experiment with things like that. So, and I really don't mean to be joking about this at all, but here is what happened. The minute that I turned and perceived this, I also immediately knew and perceived and felt and experienced that I was caught up in this bubble, so to speak, okay? Something surrounded me, and it didn't just surround me like over me, it like permeated me. It was inside out, I'm inside. It was almost like a water, except that it could permeate every cell in me, okay? And in that bubble was this intense and dense sensation of peace, comfort, and safety. And I say that it ruined me because I had never known, I'm going to try not to cry, I had never known how unsafe I had felt before and how not at peace I had been and how uncomfortable I had been living life. And this didn't last for very long, but I say that it ruined me because when you've had that, you're ruined. You can't, I mean, ruined in a good way. Like, you knew you could never go back to where you've been. The other thing that I knew is that whatever this thing was near the closet was still being evil. He was just there being, I've never said it that way, but yes, he was just being evil. But the evil coming from that being could not begin to penetrate what was going on here. And my life would be forever changed. And I tell people, I don't know how that moment ever left, but it did. And as mysteriously and quickly as it came, it mysteriously and quickly left. And I did eventually go to sleep. Now, when I woke up the next morning, I remembered, for like 30 seconds you don't remember, and then you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? And there was no way I was going to tell my family what happened or anyone what happened, because it was way too much to contend with. It just was. It was just too intense of a reality for me to share with anyone. And the other thing was, I was not going to open myself to any kind of argument about who this was. I knew who it was, and nobody needed to know that except me. So the next morning, when I remembered it, I sat up in bed and I literally asked him, "Will you do that again? Will you come again?" You know, and I sat there waiting, and there was no encounter like that. There was no seeing or any of that, but there was a knowing that he was somehow there. His presence was somehow very clear to me at that point, even though I didn't know what to do with that. Okay, so I want to interject one funny story here. So what happened after that is I began to, oh no, wait a minute, I have to tell this. So this diagnosis was very confusing, okay? And this kind of goes back to the Ricky Gervais thing. So it was confusing, and my little sister and I got on the phone together to listen to the doctor because it was hard to sort through this. And here's why, let me tell you. Because I was diagnosed with technically stage 4 ovarian cancer, but these were borderline malignant tumors. However, they were a type of borderline malignant tumor that spread anyway. So if you say malignant, it means it's cell invasive and it's carrying through your body. But if it's not malignant, it is not invading your body. But these were borderline malignant, and they weren't through the blood, but they were still spreading, okay? And sure enough, we went from ovarian to uterus to colon. We were worried about the liver, and we went through a series of surgeries, two surgeries back to back, about 2 weeks apart. And then we began to monitor with CAT scans and sonograms. And at one point, I had six oncologists that knew of this case and were talking to me. Some of them were friends of friends, and so they weren't actually like working on it. But anyway, let me tell you this funny thing that happened. So about 9 months in, I have been walking this journey with this presence of Jesus that I know is Jesus, not telling anybody, don't really want to be in the weirdo Christian club still. And I'm reading a book that a friend gave me. And in this book, which is called Love, Medicine, and Miracles, this woman comes up to the author of the book at a seminar where he's speaking, and she says, "Look, I just want to know who this white-robed male is who's following me around." And he said, "Oh, that's your spirit guide. You know, you can call him whatever you want to. I call mine George." And I'm not kidding, this righteous indignation rose up in me. I said, "His name is not George." And I have to tell people this story because that woman needed to know that this is Jesus. And that's my belief. That's my perception. Okay, so I want to tell you this. During that year of walking with the Lord, with what I believe to be the presence of Jesus, I had never before believed that I could hear the voice of the Lord. Anything that might have been the voice of the Lord before this, I just took credit for it as a really good idea or some wisdom that I came up with. But I began to know that I was hearing from the voice of the Lord, and he was beginning to tell me, "I want you to walk away from the next proposed, that word I can't say, surgery, and have faith." Okay. At the time, I had an orange-sized mass and 2 almond-sized masses attached to the orange-sized mass on the colon, and I was headed for another surgery. And I knew, even though I didn't want to admit, I knew that he was telling me to walk away and have faith. And this is the very faith, I'm not kidding, I didn't want to have. I didn't want to be a part of this. However, here was my motive. What I wanted to be, and the Lord knows how to get you, and he knows, what to use. What I wanted to be was the mother of my son. And to me, I didn't know if this was life or death. This was kind of this confusing diagnosis, and how bad was it going to get? And I had oncologists saying, "But you don't want it to metastasize. And if you don't do something about it, it eventually will." And so I was in this space that I was willing to risk listening to this voice and walk this out. So I had called the oncologist and said, I am going to put this surgery off. And I got shamed by the oncologist. I was told that I was trying to wish it away. A friend was quoted to me saying she's playing games with her son's mother's life and she doesn't have a right to do that. And I'm just telling you that because the battle that I had to face, or anyone has to face when they decide that they're going to do this, everybody thought I was losing my mind, right? And just somewhat justifiably so if you didn't understand what was going on here. So I called the oncologist, told him I was going to put it off, got the lecture, and the next morning I sat in a chair and I said, look, okay, I did what you said. And this was the first time that I had admitted or acknowledged that it was him saying it. And so I said, okay, look, I did what you said, but I cannot just sit in a chair and wait for cancer to go away. I mean, I can't do that. So you are going to have to tell me what to do here. And it was about like that, intense. So the next morning I woke up, and when I woke up, before I was totally awake, I heard very clearly this. I heard, read, read, read. And I knew that was not connected to a dream I had. That was not connected to any thought I was having. I wasn't having a thought. I was just coming. And that is not my voice. That is a voice outside of me. Okay. Over the next 3 days, friends began to hand me books. I mean, one after the other, including the book I was just talking about. Another book that was handed to me was a book called Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Smoking. I read that book over a weekend and I haven't smoked since, with the exception of one time I got mad and tried to smoke, and one time I thought I was going to go back to that life for a little depressed minute I was going through, and that's it. And that was only one cigarette that time, or it was actually only one drag off of a cigarette. So anyway, I'm just telling you that because the books that were handed me fed and informed what I was going through. It's a big, long story to that journey. I won't go into the whole thing, but I just want to tell you that I desperately listened and clung to, if that's grammatically correct, what I was hearing from the Lord and what I was hearing out of the Bible, and the two began to come together, and the Bible went from black and white and one-dimensional, like this linear one-dimensional, to like this multi-dimensional, like, oh my goodness, I mean, there's no way that men could make this up. It's a rabbit trail. I'm going to stay off of it. Anyway, so I continue to walk through this, and what the Lord really did is he took me through what we would call inner healing, okay? But it was just me and the Lord. I didn't go to inner healing classes. I didn't read inner healing books. I didn't know about, I mean, there were a few, but they weren't even Christian books, but it was the Lord and me, and he was walking me through this, okay? So through a sonogram, I found out that I had that the 2 almond-sized masses were gone, and that the orange size was now the size of a walnut. And I really couldn't believe it. Like it's just like really something. And my mind would tell me that's just a fluke. It's going to come back and it's going to be the size of a basketball. I mean, like, you're so playing games, you're playing with fire here. So then 6 weeks later, I have another sonogram, and now it's the size of a grape. And I tell my oncologist, I've now returned to my oncologist, and I say, or my original oncologist, and I say, okay, well, look, I'm just telling you, God told me that he was going to heal me, and he is. And she's like, I don't really I respect that, but I don't really have that conversation. I just have to think from a medical perspective. And I got that. And she said, so it doesn't matter whether it was, it's grape size or microscopic, we still need to do this same surgery. So I now need to get a sonogram because I need to know the position, because as it shrunk, it moved either to the left or the right or whatever. And I need to know its exact position so we can kind of reformulate the surgery. And in my mind, I'm like, honey, we're not having the surgery, but I'm trying to, I'm trying to walk this thing out. So she sends me to the imaging center, which is under construction, and they have to postpone it for 2 weeks. So I come back in 2 weeks and they do the sonogram, and there's nothing there. It's completely gone. And I have a little fun picking up my phone and calling everybody and saying, haha, it's gone. All you people, all you mockers. No, not really. It was just a joy to celebrate it. And again, I tell people all the time, I had faith the size of a mustard seed and fear the size of a mountain. But still, and what happened through that is he grew my faith. I mean, I just continued to learn how to see my burning bushes and listen to his voice, you know. And so I did not want to be one of them, but here I am. and here I am. That leads me to this. And I do love Ricky Gervais. I just, could some renewed-minded people jump on the Mountain of Celebration and do some comedy for me, because I am a comedy junkie, and I just wish that would happen. Anyway, that's enough of that rant. Okay, so I was a youth pastor for a little while. I'm going to wrap it up with this. I was a youth pastor for a little while, and I had a youth member hear my story because I told it to this little group. And sorry, I'm trying to find a Bible verse here. And he said, very skeptically, he said, Jill, now, why do you think the Lord would do that for you and not for everybody else? And it stopped me, and I said, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. The only thing I know is this. Because it did happen to me, I feel that I have to tell the story. That I was so privileged that the Lord broke into my life in the middle of me smoking 2 packs of cigarettes, sleeping around and drinking too much, and so on, that whole lifestyle. And I tell people, he literally jerked me up by the collar and kissed me on the lips and completely changed my life. And I don't know why he would pick one. But I will say this, I have since met many people, so many people who have had the same similar, not exact, but same very similar types of encounters. And when they tell their story, it just buzzes with me like, yes, that is what happened to me. It's not the exact same thing, but that's what I'm talking about. And it's all supernatural. It's not things that can be totally explained or understood by the left brain. But it is manifest and evident enough through the testimony, through the eyewitness testimony, that I encourage you to investigate it and open yourself up to it and come to see that it is the truth. It is the exclusive truth. That is what I believe. So I'm going to read this verse. This is Isaiah, or as Ricky Gervais would say, Isaiah. Okay, no bad impressions, I'm sorry. Isaiah 6:8. I think even some Texans say Isaiah. Not really, that's really hard for a Texan. I'm sorry, okay. Anyway, 6:8. Isaiah, the prophet, says, also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for me, for us? And then I said, Isaiah said, here I am, send me. And so this whole story was truly my return to love. It was my return to love. I knew Jesus as a young girl, but I'd walked away from any real connection. I kind of thought that it was somewhere between a fairy tale and the truth. It wasn't quite a fairy tale, but it wasn't really like a truth that we needed to contend with. And but this was absolutely my return to love, because God is love. And that is what I had to share with you today. I love you. I'll see you next time.
I pray you'll find the spirit of truth. You'll open your heart and mind